Welcome to this class on decoding nature's elemental wisdom. We'll be looking at nature's elemental wisdom and emotional mastery and how these two blend and offer a framework that creates many layers for us to be able to transform our lives in many ways so that our lives can be more easeful, present, and connected. We're going to light our candles and acknowledge that we're spending this time together. Even though we're online, we're around a sacred fire for this transmission with our spirits. And we'll just light the flame to honor that. And we'll just take a moment. Let's just take a moment to settle into the space and close our eyes. And we can imagine that we are in a large circle together with a beautiful fire in the center. And that all our spirits are here seeing each other and honoring each other for the pathways that we are journeying down in this human existence. And just maybe feel a grounding cord as wide as your hips, going down into the earth, connecting with the heart, Mother Earth, and just letting go of any tensions or busyness from the day, any worries. Feeling the energy from Mother Earth coming back up through the earth, through the mycelium and the roots, and the soil and the rock, and coming back up through you, offering you this beautiful creative life force energy coming up through your body, connecting in with your heart space and radiating out all around. And opening the crown and feeling the celestial energy pouring in with infinite unconditional love down through the body and dipping a little bit into the earth and meeting with the earth's energy. And then coming and moving back up through you with a beautiful energetic field of creative life force, unconditionally loving energy, filling your being, coming to your heart, feeling your heart, and fountaining out the top of your head and all around you in a toroidal field, and then back up through your root, creating this beautiful, loving energy all through and around your body. So if you can just take a moment and tap into what your intention was to join today. What was calling you to be here? And just connect with that. And you can place your right hand on your heart and your left hand over top. And we'll just turn the hands from upper left to upper right in 3 circles and down in 3 circles, and then twice the other way. And just seal that in with your heart. And you can release your hands and gently blink open your eyes and come back into the room. And we'll go on. I'll ask you to remain present with your energy and your intention for being here. And if you can turn off any distractions that you might have, like email or social media or chats, so that you're able to focus and get the most out of our time together. So yes, thank you for taking the time out of your day. And I appreciate you And I'm looking forward to sharing this view of life that I feel weaves us back into the web of life and helps us create a greater understanding of connection, reciprocity, and purpose, and weave that back into our day-to-day existence. The foundations of much of this are based on ancient Daoist cosmology. And my name is Sonja Alina, if we haven't met yet. I'm a lover of nature. I'm always seeking to learn new ways to live in harmony with all of life around me. I'm a student of life. In 2010, I started to, after a lot of health issues, I started to move into wellness through learning shiatsu. And that was when I was first introduced to the philosophy and the cosmology of the 5 phases. It opened me up to a dynamic, inclusive view of life. It blew my mind open. It's very simple, but it also takes some time to wrap your head around it, especially coming from Western schools of thought that tend to be very linear and directly cause and effect rather than dynamic with a lot of elements around us. I remember thinking that little kids should be learning this in school because it really weaves us back into being a part of nature and understanding of us being nature and not separate from it. So during this time, I learned to work with the energetic body through shiatsu, qigong, and meditation. I was also learning to live, eat, and create a lifestyle that was aligned with nature, the seasons, energies, and then seeing how a reflection of energies and climates were presenting within my own body, my physical and emotional body, and how to bring those into harmony. So it really helps to open the mind up to a macro and micro perspective. Shortly after that, I moved deeply into yoga and meditation. And here I found more opportunities to learn and build an awareness within my body of how energy was moving and feeling the flow of qi within the meridians and how different emotions create different types of energies and different types of reactions along meridians and what they are responsible for in the body. And this provided a gateway for me to really learn deeply how to transform emotions and to create space and to have mindful awareness when things were coming up so that I could have time to have a broader perspective and opportunity to shift those. And of course, everything is always a work in progress too. In 2016, I went to school for Chinese medicine acupuncture. In the past 12 years, I've been learning to work with my own inner alchemy and being super engaged in self-hypnosis. I was really wanting to understand why I would behave or react certain ways, why I felt uncomfortable or shy, and how could I overcome that and heal self-worth things, learning to be in nature, and learning how to cultivate dynamic, healthy relationships that allow space for growth, compassion, and authentic connection, as well as really developing an authentic connection to my soul self so that I felt like I was showing up in my fullest. This framework has given me an access to a life that I love. I love co-creating with spirit. And I've seen it help my clients in massive transformative shifts and seeing how much people are struggling with the present pressures of our current culture of relating. I just decided to put this deeper course together. And today's course is an overview and a very mini experience of this course, Alchemy of Emotions, with a few mini practical tools. This is an introduction to the 5 phases, which is a TCM, a Daoist philosophy originates from Daoism, and it offers a framework for organizing all natural phenomena into 5 master patterns. And I'll get deeper into what those are afterwards. But first, we'll talk about the Tao, which is it's source energy. It's the unspeakable, the unknowable. It's where we come from and where we go back to. So Lao Tzu in the Tao Te Ching says, human beings follow the earth follows heaven follows the Tao, and Tao follows all that's natural. So we can't go too wrong if we look to nature as our teacher. In the cosmology, it sees the Tao as the cosmic source of the universe. And when it starts to move into the material world, there is a stirring which turns into the polarities of yin and yang. And then the yin and yang separates into the 5 elements, which each have yin and yang within them. And these separate into all of life on Earth, all material life on Earth. So yin and yang have qualities that complement one another so that they can't exist without the other, and each of them has a little bit of the other within it. So yin would be looked at, and they're relative to each other. So yin would be looked at as feminine, a negative charge, the moon, dark, earth, passive, flowing water, still water, below, cold, deep, sleep, night, the seasons of autumn and winter. Autumn is starting to have more yin in it, and winter is like the most yin. Indirect, rounded, softness, flexibility, stillness, the front side of the body, the left side of the body, internal, mental, even numbers, intuition, storage, quiet, and receptive. And yang is masculine, positive charge, sun, light, heaven, active, fire, above, hot, awake, day. Spring starts being more yang, and then summer is full yang. Direct, straight, hard, solid, movement, energetic, fast, the backside, the right side, physical, odd numbers, logic, loud, giving. We can see that each needs to exist for the other one to have a reflection. Then when this splits the yin and yang into the 5 phases, the generative cycle of these, the creation cycle, is water would be the mother of wood, wood the mother of fire, the mother of earth, and earth the mother of metal, and so on. And they're corresponding each with a season. Wood is in spring, fire in summer, late earth is in late summer, or some aspects of the philosophy look at it as the in-between states of each of the seasons, like that shifting time. Metal is in the autumn and water is in the winter. This understanding goes back over 2,000 years, is the basis of Taoism and Chinese medicine philosophy and understanding of nature. I love it. It's poetic, holistic, and connective for its understanding of life, energetics, and natural law. Also, each of these elements have a control cycle, which is important. It keeps things in check. Water controls fire so that the fire doesn't rage out of control. Fire forms metal so that we can make tools. Metal formed into an axe can chop wood. And wood can contain earth, and earth turned into clay can hold water. They can also be in excess or overacting on the other. The water could be putting the fire out completely, or the fire could be too hot for the metal, so it's not having the opportunity to cool down and create form, and so on. I just wanted to give you a foundation of these because it'll help when we start looking at everything else. Each of these phases has a group of characteristics that define them and informs how they interact with one another in this dance of constant flux. The universe is the result of change and the result of movements of these phases and their relationships to one another. We'll get into looking at what the different correspondences are so we can start to see how they come into different ways in our lives. So starting with water. Water is the winter season. It's related to the north, the cold. It's the time of storage, or when a seed is like deep in the ground, just getting nurturance or holding. For emotions or states of being, when it's out of balance, there can be a lot of fear. When it's imbalance, or things that help bring it into balance, is recognizing like a faith in the unknown. And also through going through life, we garner this wisdom that allows us to have less fear through our experience. The sound would be groaning. And it's reflected in the head hair and in the bones. Then we go into wood, and wood is the spring, it's the east, the climate is the wind, it's the time of birth. The seed has now come to fruition. In balance, that energy can be anger, and balanced, it can be direction and compassion. The sound would be more shouting. It's reflected in the eyes in different ways, such as like dry eyes or red eyes, depending on the state of the wood, or clear eyes. And it's reflecting the sinews, the tendons. For example, the liver and the gallbladder are the organs of wood, and they control the smooth flow of qi. If there is a stagnation in that, we might get really stiff hips or sciatic pain. We might get feelings of frustration or anger. But if this qi in the blood is properly nourished and flowing, then our tendons will feel like they have the juiciness of life. We won't feel any pain from them. So then we can move into fire. And this is summer, south, heat, growth. And emotionally, it can be, if out of balance, can be a lack of joy, or it can move into a more mania type of expression. And when it's imbalanced, there's healthy passion and there's healthy modulated warmth, like appropriately modulated warmth with others. The sound is laughing. It's reflected in the tongue and the blood vessels. Earth is the center in the season of late summer and the direction of center. The climates are dampness and humidity. The earth is also related to the spleen and stomach. It's a time of transformation. So after the growth, it's like everything is full and abundant and ready. It's ready to, if you're looking at a garden, it's ready to be eaten, or it's ready to transform to the next stage of letting go. Imbalanced emotions might be worry or draining ourselves with care too much for others, or getting pulled into others' emotions, like not being able to be appropriately empathetic, but actually starting to take everything on ourselves. And balance would be trust and empathy. A voice is singing, or the sound is singing. It's reflected in the mouth and the lips and the muscles. And then the last one, metal, is autumn. It's the direction of the west. Dryness, time of harvesting and gathering. Emotions, it's time of grief and letting go. And in balance, like there's humility and integrity. And the humility would be humility for the impermanence of our human existence. There's a weeping reflected in the nose and the skin. So that just gives you a brief overview of how the elements hold these characteristics and can start to provide like a little bit of a framework that we can work within. One way that we can look at embodying nature's rhythms and how we can start to align with the rhythms is, for example, if you have a project that is coming up, or starting to tickle your inspiration a little bit, and it's been winter time and you've been in the deep yin time and in the mystery, and you've started to get inklings of an idea. It's just on the tip of your tongue. You don't know what it is yet. So you're just allowing yourself to be receptive, to be in that deep yin time, to be in the mystery, to nourish your creativity, and just let whatever wants to come through, let yourself just be washed with whatever might want to come through. And then as we move into spring, so around mid-February, the seed deep below the surface cracks. And there's a surge of energy that starts coming towards the surface, and it's beginning to have direction. And you're beginning to know more, with no more material world clarity, what might be coming through. So you would start visioning and planning and organizing and birthing this inspiration into a more physical form. And then summer, the fire, the most yang time, you've birthed this project, and it's starting to grow and connect and reach out, and it's activated, it's happening. People are engaging with it if that's what the project's for. And it's got this fullness and life and liveliness to it. And then in late summer, we get to the place where it's now time to maintain it, to have some like consistency, to nurture what it needs to stay in whatever form, and to start harvesting the fruits of our labor with the project, whatever they might be. And then the fall comes, and it's the energy of the fall is looking at it all and seeing, okay, some parts of this, maybe that it's ready to let them go. Maybe it's time to wrap the whole project up, or maybe there's aspects of the project that are not coming to the next step. And it's time to look at it and be willing to release with reciprocity and gratitude the things that have brought you to this point, and then let them go so that you can start making space for whatever you're growing into, whatever the project is growing into, or if the project is finished, whatever next inspiration, you want to make space. This is an example of looking at it through the year cycle, but these things can happen within shorter periods of times, but those are the ebb and flows and cycles of what's happening. And so that we can be present with the appropriate energy that's there, because it's hard to reach out and activate something when it's not quite yet visioned and brought into the material form. This is natural law. This is the way things move in harmony. The way we grow too with things that we're growing through. But you can see this whole cycle within a tree. Like in the spring, the buds are coming out. And then in the summer, they're growing. The leaves are luscious and expanding. And then in the late summer, they're mature and full, and the fruit has been offered. And then we move into the fall, the leaves are falling, and the trunk, and then in the winter, the trunk and branches return the sap, offering it back to the earth through the roots. Write about an experience or project that you can think of in your life that followed this type of cycle. And this can be very deep work if we want it to be, even with this. So like I was saying before, in the winter, when there's an disempowered energy of the winter energy going on, it could be fear. And empowered, it has a willpower, caring, and wisdom. So the fear, it's understandable because the winter and the deep yin time represents the unknown. And if we have not had the time to cultivate a relationship with the unknown and with the darkness and the quiet and being alone with ourselves or alone in nature, or not that you're ever really alone in nature, but when you've cultivated a relationship with this deep yin time and a curiosity or an openness or a receptivity to the creative, to the unknown, there's less room for fear. And we can also get locked into fear from a past experience, from an inherited perception, from societal perceptions and projections. And a lot has to do with becoming really clear with what's true and what's not, and what stories or ideas we are transfixed by. And can we change those stories and ideas? Do we need to create safety for ourselves so that we can slowly start to build a relationship with the unknown so that we can move into a receptive place with it? And then moving into spring, the energy of anger can be a full range from annoyance to frustration to anger to rage. And we can see how the water element is mother of the wood element, how fear is the mother of anger. Behind the anger is usually a fear, whether it's a fear of not being seen or heard, or a fear of so many things, a past experience that causes you to react in anger. It's like it's all built in too with the fight or flight, which comes from a place of fear or needing to move into protection. Once we learn to work with that and learn to know the different, like what that energy is, it's the same energy as a sprout that is having to use all of its life force to grow through the soil to come up to the sunlight. It's got a direction, it's got a place it wants to go. And with the anger, it could be that we were blocked from fully expressing something. And then it starts to turn into this compression, like a kettle that's going to just blow its steam at some point. So we can work on many levels with getting clear on where it's coming from, with boundaries, with nourishment can have a big part to do with it. Many layers, learning how to move anger within our body so that we're not hanging on to it and then having it really coming out at certain times. So then we have, in the balanced way, there's a clarity, a decisiveness, and a kindness. Then when we move into fire, there's the mania, or it can also be like a lack of joy. And this, in a balanced way, there's like warmth. Someone feels warm and joyful. They're able to connect easily with people. There's appropriate levels, which means they're able to let someone into their inner heart as is appropriate, not being too permeable and just letting everyone in too quickly and then feeling hurt and not completely blocked and not letting anyone in. There's that finding that beautiful modulated warmth that allows the levels of initiation that relationship goes through. Then with the earth, this is where we're worrying a lot, we're ruminating a lot, we're thinking, we're overthinking, we're in our minds, worrying about our loved ones obsessively, or it can come natural too. The mothers worrying about their kids and what's happening, especially when they're going through the different phases of life. And when there's been a balance created within oneself, there's more stability, there's more centeredness. Of the obsessiveness isn't far out. And then with the grief, yes, we need grief when we go through. It's a phase that all of these things, but it's when the grief is not letting go, when it's overtaking our lives for a really long time, and we've not been able to make space for anything else or transform that grief. And that requires faith and a letting go and a courage to move into the unknown, discernment. And when we are able to move into that space, we create more room to be inspired and to have strength to move on to the next aspects of life. Ways to alchemize your emotions are to cultivate a mindfulness practice that allows you to create space between the emotion and the reaction. And then you can learn what different emotions feel like in your body. And some pathways that I have found to learn and start to feel into what different emotions feel like in the body are doing some yin yoga and doing journaling after each posture and journaling what was coming up, doing embodied dance practices or movement practices. And it's not like the type of dance where it's move this way, move that. It's actually feeling different types of emotions in your body, feeling what does anger feel like in the body and what does kindness or acceptance feel like in the body. Another practice would be taking the time, like walking around with a little sticky note in your pocket and a little pencil. And every time an emotion is coming up in the day, name it and just take a moment to recognize it, name it, and start to increase your language that you have as descriptors of emotions. Then another aspect is understanding the type of energy an emotion has. And we talked about earlier, like a sprout growing out of the ground is strong and directional, and anger can have the same energy as if it's pushing against something very heavy. And then taking the time to explore, what is the emotion revealing to you? We don't want to move through life in a way where we are feeling an emotion that's like really strong for us, that's coming up all the time. And we're just like, oh, feeling that and moving on and just being in it often and not taking the time to be like, hey, this is trying to tell me something. My body, my mind, my spirit is trying to express something. It could be a lack of boundaries. It could be clarity. It could be a perception that you are not feeling aligned to anymore, doesn't belong to you. It could be a need for more self-confidence or care. It could be an old habit of reacting that's not true for you anymore and is looking for an opportunity to grow, to be seen. There could be attachment things. There can be so many things, but these are, if we are looking for self-growth, the emotions are a beautiful key that open a doorway to that self-growth. So we don't want to ignore them. We don't want to stuff them away. We don't want to accept them as, oh, that's just who I am. if you're looking to create change in your life. Emotions can also be parts of ourselves that got frozen in time. Say something happened to us when we were younger that kind of got stuck in that time. And the rest of us has grown up and matured. And that aspect needs to be brought in and harmonized. And it can be called reparenting, like reparenting that aspect of yourself. So it matches who you are now moving through in the world or who you desire to be growing into. And all this, it's required that you develop a sense of compassion, patience, and a willingness to create a connection and be in vitality with yourself and others. It takes time. And like I said earlier, it's like a spiral. You will learn something and you'll feel like you transformed it and you'll be feeling really great. And then you'll have an experience that brings it up in you again. And you're just like, oh, I thought I did this work. But if we take the time to look at it, we have done the work and we're spiraling at it from a different level of consciousness. And we may keep tapping into things that will bring that up until we've really refined it and the charge is gone. With having the patience to recognize, oh yeah, I handled that a little bit differently. And maybe I have a little bit more work to do to handle it even more differently next time, or maybe it's complete. Having patience and trust that things are happening. I'm going to ask you to close your eyes and feel in your body. We're going to jump in between different feelings so that you can have this practice of feeling the different things in your body. First of all, feel a time when you felt really frustrated and angry. Imagine that time and feel into what your body feels like. And then shift into a time when you felt very purposeful, like you were bringing something into life. You knew exactly what you were going to do next, and it was flowing. I definitely, when I go into anger, I feel like everything feels blocked, tight. It feels condensed. And maybe that's the frustration or annoyance, whereas like anger might feel like a little bit more violently explosive. And when I feel like purposeful and direct, it feels like a flowing, like good, steady spring river flowing and more expansive and less condensed. The reason I wanted you to feel that is some of what I'll talk about later in the program, there's practices so that we can start to play with those feelings within our body so that we can become more skilled in a moment to recognize and alchemize or transform what's happening in the body. Close your eyes again. And this time, I want you to think of a time when you felt fear and explore what that feels like in your body. Where is the energy moving to in your body? And then move into a space where you feel really safe and dreamy. feel just held enough to be without a care. And move back to fear and move back to dreamy. And if you want to take a second to write down the difference for yourself between the two. Okay, so then we'll go and experiment. Close your eyes, and we'll experiment with feeling. Think of a time when you felt so much joy and happiness and bliss and felt really warm and connected. And then feel into a time where you felt really flat, like deflated, and you couldn't access your joy. Maybe it's gray out. And then go back into a time where you feel the joy, the radiance of the sun. Feel your own inner sun radiating from your heart. And then, if you like, you can make a quick note about the differences there. And we'll do one last one. We'll do feeling worry. So close your eyes and just tap into a time where you were really worried and ruminating and unsettled. And then feel into a time when you felt nurturing and nurtured. You felt like you could hold space and felt held, felt the fullness of your being. We can use various tools of transformation that can lead to profound changes in your life. And you can move from these places, these different glass ceilings, or these different perceptions that are feel like you're blocking you, or if you feel like you're never fully expressing your authentic self in a room full of people, you can begin to move from your authenticity and your clarity and your presence. Knowing how to create boundaries from a place of where your current bandwidth of tolerance is at and to communicate your needs. And that's flexible. With our bandwidth of tolerance, it depends what's going on in our lives and our emotional field, like where we're at, where our health is at. And our bandwidth of tolerance can grow and shrink. And that means our boundaries can change also. But it helps if we're aware of where we're at and how to express those things in order for us to cultivate healthy and respectful relationships where we're able to be generous of heart and empathetic without depleting ourselves. And it helps us in feeling safe to create relationships with appropriate modulated warmth and intimacy. And it helps you in your work in the world to give from a place of balance and request support when you need it. It also helps create space for your own personal wellness as a non-negotiable. Often we're doing our calendars and filling them up with all the things, our to-do lists, all our work obligations and all these things. And then we try to find a space in there to squeeze ourselves in. And really, we are, in order for us to give to the world fully the way we are meant to be here, that means we have to somehow work in a way where our personal wellness is non-negotiable. So that goes in first so that we can support everything else. It's like we need to have a foundation before we can put all the sides of the house up and everything up. We need to have a solid foundation and be clear on what that looks like for us because it's different for everyone else. And within this, we need to get really clear on what our personal values and dreams are, not the ones that we've inherited or from expectations or anything else. It's really getting clear on what are our personal values and dreams and how are they aligning with the laws of nature and how we want to move through the world. And being able to filter out what is not serving us and to make space for those. What is alchemy? Sometimes I get this question because they've named the course Alchemy of Emotions that I'm going to talk about in a moment. But it's being able to transform something from one state to another. And I believe that we are these multidimensional humans. And what multidimensional means to me is I like to look at the yogic philosophies on how they view the different sheaths of our being. So we have our physical body, we have our emotional body, our spiritual body, and these different filters through which we navigate this 3D human experience in the world. And just if we had a computer and it only had Word Perfect in it, and we were trying to like edit photos and do layouts and edit videos and do complicated math calculations all in Word Perfect, it would be a disaster. When we have all these other programs available to us that are each specified to these things. Mostly our culture has trained us to store everything and do everything through our physical body. Our emotional intelligence hasn't been nurtured, and awareness of our energetic body has not been nurtured at all. These are all your birthrights, and these are all skills that we can develop and learn so that we can start, instead of trying to process all of our emotions and holding them in our physical body, we can start moving them through all these filters of our being. So each section is dealing with the appropriate aspect of that experience so that we can become, I see it as being more permeable. So things can move through us without getting stuck or caught in us. I like to use the emotions as keys to learning these and learning how to alchemize emotions from a challenging state into a supportive state through understanding the energies and dynamics between energies of creation and self-gnosis. I thank you for being here and taking the time to listen and be present. We can bring our candles, light our candles to acknowledge the closing of the circle. And thank you so much for sticking with me through this. And I hope that it gave you a little bit of an experience. And I wish you all a very beautiful and transformative day.